Welcome to Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. I'm Peter Gross, co-host of the original Wild Kingdom with Marlon Perkins and Jim Fowler. In the early days of filming wildlife, as you'll see tonight, researchers had to capture animals in order to observe and learn from them. But that's no longer the case today. Modern technology such as drones and satellite tracking offer new ways to study animals in their natural habitat with less intrusion from human touch. Wild Kingdom set the gold standard for nature programming and introduced generations of young people to the wonders of the natural world. Fortunately, the successful research that began with our original series helped many animals make a comeback from the threat of extinction. And that's good news for the Wild Kingdom. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom is presented by Mutual of Omaha.
Welcome to Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. People often ask us, why is conservation so important? And why do conservationists find it necessary to chase and capture wild animals? First of all, most conservationists and scientists believe that animals fit into the web of all nature and that the status of our wildlife is a vital indicator of the status of our own environment. If we are to survive, so must our wildlife survive. If our wildlife is to survive in their ever-decreasing habitat, it must be managed. This requires facts. Where do the animals live? What do they eat? Who are their enemies? To get these and other facts, we must conduct research which studies animals in groups as well as individuals. And to study a particular animal, it must be identified, marked in some way. To do this, the animal must be captured. The purpose of today's program is to show why conservationists must capture animals and why certain methods of capture are better than others. These methods fall into 6 general categories: driving into nets, roping, capture stick, darting, trapping, and cannon netting. Cannon netting is the most important method for capturing waterfowl for research and banding. An explosive charge launches the net over the birds that have come to baited ground. Recently, at the Horicon Marsh in Wisconsin, we observed this net in operation and learned why it is so valuable in conservation work. Hundreds of thousands of Canada geese are annual visitors at Horicon Marsh during their migration. The game management men who work here under Robert Personius, manager of the refuge, use cannon nets almost exclusively to capture the birds they band. The net is carefully folded on the ground in front of the cannon tubes, and this netting is attached by cords to heavy weights which are fired by the cannons. The cannon net for goose trapping is on one edge of the 21,000-acre marsh, which attracts about 400,000 geese each fall. The cannon net is launched by the men in this building. As the geese move about and feed at the marsh, some come to the baited area in front of the cannon net. To properly manage waterfowl populations, a large number of ducks and geese must be studied. This is where cannon netting becomes so important. Unharmed, the birds that remain are effectively pinned by the net. At once, the work is begun to get them banded according to sex and certain vital data recorded about each. The data, carefully correlated and studied, becomes essential in establishing programs to ensure desired population levels among waterfowl. The refuge director knows well the value of this waterfowl research program. The captured geese have sex-identifying metal bands crimped harmlessly to their ankles. When the banding is completed, the bird is released. And so I put the question to Robert Personius. Bob, what can be learned from a tagging and banding operation like this?
Banding any kind of bird tells us about the bird's travels. It's from information like this that we have been able to determine just exactly where our birds nest and where they winter. More than that, we are also able, with mathematical means, to get some idea of the mortality rates on birds also through banding. So banding provides us quite a bit of research information we need to manage waterfowl.
These banded birds will return to this marsh next year. This benefits many people. Bob Personius puts it this way.
It's very beneficial to school groups that can come out. We provide tours for many of these. Horican Marsh can be used as an outdoor classroom for education, and especially in this day when we need more education on the environmental issues.
So both man and waterfowl benefit from the conservation program at Horican Marsh, where the cannon net played such an important part. But not all animals needed for research can be trapped this way. The wildebeest of Africa, for example, are normally too wary and fleet-footed for such a device. Since wildebeest cannot readily be baited into an area, we decided to set the net over a trail they regularly used. Getting the cannon tubes at the proper angle is as important as correctly placing the charges. Angled too low, and the animals could be hit and hurt. Angled too high lets them elude the net before it settles. This angle should clear their backs just about right. We'll detonate the cannons from our blind. It was clear that cannon netting was inadequate for such swift animals. Even warier than the wildebeest are the carnivores, especially the great cats, like the Bengal tiger. Such animals must be carefully baited into a net trap, which is operated by this man. The tiger is cautious in its approach, even with freshly killed calf as bait. Once the tiger gets to the bait and stands on the net, it closes like a pouch around him. It's the safest and most humane way of catching such a powerful and dangerous animal. The trap is triggered by a well-hidden trapper in a nearby blind. When the tiger is in position, he gives the trigger cord a hard yank. Tigers like this, prowling in farming areas, soon start to prey on cattle because their natural prey has become scarce. Many tigers have been caught recently in such net traps. A dedicated conservationist, Gopalakrishnan, told me why.
For centuries, the hand of every man has been against tigers. Because tigers pose a danger to man's livestock and to man himself, few opportunities to kill him have been passed up. After all, tiger skins do make beautiful trophies, and with modern weapons, there is no real danger in hunting the animal. Recent movements in India have been to prohibit the shooting of tigers. Where possible, governmental organizations, with the support and encouragement of interested citizen organizations, have begun to remove tigers from places where they are not wanted to areas where they are welcome.
Without such a far-sighted relocation program in effect, these animals might soon be extinct. Good conservation practices, as Gopalakrishnan put it, are saving India's tigers. When the scientist must actually get his data through handling a particularly dangerous animal, the safest method of capture is darting it with a drug-filled hypodermic syringe. In northern Canada, Dr. Charles Jonkel, probably the world's foremost authority on polar bears, is doing much toward saving this giant white bear of the north from extinction. Over the years, Dr. Jonkel has darted literally hundreds of polar bears, just as he has darted this one. The drugs used in the hypodermic darts he fires at them from a helicopter very quickly immobilize the powerful animal. This keeps it safely under control while he obtains the data he needs. There are those who object to such immobilization being done, not realizing that in doing so, Dr. Jonkel is helping to preserve the species. Every scrap of data gathered adds to man's cumulative knowledge of his own world. Through research being done, man learns how this animal lives under such hostile conditions of climate and terrain. In understanding this, he can apply the knowledge to the preservation of a threatened species, the polar bear, and benefit himself as well. All physical measurements and data about weight, sex, and other factors are recorded carefully for study in the years ahead. I was impressed with Dr. Jonkel's gentleness in handling the bear, and with the data gathered so carefully by him. One of his final steps was to mark the bear so that when it was observed again by researchers, further information could be added to that already recorded. Dr. Jonkel's work on polar bears over the years has been done with definite goals in mind, and I asked him about that. Chuck, you've been studying polar bears now for a number of years. What are your long-range goals for this research?
The long-range goal, of course, is good management for the species. You can't really have good management unless you collect your data. And everyone would like to manage bears, but until you know what to do, you really can't. You can't begin your management. And this, in essence, is what we're trying to do: is get enough data on enough different aspects of the polar bear biology that we can set up good management plans for the different areas where bears live.
It isn't always research like Dr. Jonkel's which necessitates catching an individual animal. Sometimes it is simply to save an animal from death. Though darting is effective, it has certain limitations. The use of a capture stick is often preferable. Darting this cougar could result in its drowning. A close approach with the capture stick is necessary. It holds the cat firmly without injury. But in case of such close contact, the unexpected can always happen. This cougar, marooned by rising water from a new dam, might have drowned had he not been captured for release elsewhere. Such rescue is conservation in a limited sense, but it is also very important. Sometimes with the larger animals, an elongated capture stick is used called a pole rope. At times, neither capture stick nor pole rope will do, and the ordinary lariat becomes the most expedient device. The African buffalo is an animal which cannot very well be taken by a man in a vehicle wielding a capture stick or pole rope. This is because of the terrain the animal favors. Therefore, the best alternative is for a man on horseback to rope him. Buffaloes are a sort of wild cattle, but they're quite resistant to diseases which afflict domestic cattle. Because of this, a very close study is being made of the animal. The results may provide answers which will be of enormous benefit to mankind in the protection of his own cattle. In addition to blood tests and recording the vital statistics of the captured animal, it becomes necessary to do some thorough data gathering with some rather sophisticated devices. In this case, a cardiomicrophone will provide accurate circulatory information, and a portable electrocardiograph records data for later research. Earlier, we saw wildebeest avoiding a cannon net. They and similar African herd animals were for many years captured by being driven into a stationary net, a method with some unfortunate drawbacks. Driving animals into stationary nets at full speed endangered both animals and men. Vehicles were used to locate and herd roan antelope like these, as well as many other herd animals of the grasslands. Sable antelope were herded this way. So were water bucks. All would hit the fence while running at full speed with sometimes tragic results. Many animals were hurt. Even when uninjured, their struggles to escape created a grave likelihood of injury to the men who had to quickly pin them down. For many years, this was the principal capture method for such herd animals, but no longer. While use of the stationary nets in Africa has all but ended, in some areas it is still being used effectively, such as in Canada, in the capture and research work being done on caribou. Airplane herding of the caribou, we learned, is the most successful means of driving them, mainly because of deep snows. Any other type of vehicle could not keep pace well enough to drive the animals in the desired direction. Even with the airplane, great skill is required to avoid an upset. It is this very factor of snow depth which permits the safe use of the stationary net. Because they're running more slowly in soft snow, their collision with the net is not injurious. They merely become entangled and can quickly be brought under control. Because the caribou is such an important link in the chain of life of the Northland, the capturing and tagging of the animals is vital. If the herds were destroyed, the ecological balance would be so altered that both men and animals would suffer. Radio telemetry collars around the animals' necks provide identification and send out signals which allow researchers to follow their migrational movements. Such research programs benefit the species and may help to preserve native Indian races which need the caribou for survival. In most areas, the old stationary net capture method as used with antelope and caribou has been replaced by a better method, less dangerous to animals and humans. It's a corral with plastic curtain walls. Once driven inside through this opening and a draw curtain pulled across here behind them, the animals avoid the walls as if they were solid. We recently watched such a trap in use in Southwest Africa. Our introduction to the revolutionary capture method came from Wolfgang Delfs, renowned African trapper. With plastic curtain over the rope netting, animals driven inside do not make any effort to break through. As a result, entanglement in the mesh and broken bones no longer occur. In fact, as we're about to see, utilization of this sort of trapping device allows the animals to be brought under complete control without ever having been touched by human hands, by ropes, or any other device which might unduly shock them. The plastic walls are all stationary except for the mouth of the trap, where the curtain runs on a track like drapery. The curtains are pulled together from both corners of the trap's mouth as soon as the animals have been driven inside. And now's as good a time as any to give it a real test. It takes at least 3 highly maneuverable vehicles with good drivers in order to properly control the animals to be driven into the trap. This is particularly true when the animal being sought is one of the more fleet species of antelope, as ours is this day. Our aim is to locate and capture a small herd of one of the swiftest and perhaps the most attractive Of all the antelope species found in southwest Africa, the gemsbok, there are areas where this fine animal has all but disappeared. Relocation is required to establish new herds. Wolfgang tells the drivers to split up in order to encircle the antelope and drive them back toward the trap. It is treacherous driving requiring constant vigilance. Relocation of the gemsbok herds through this capture method is important in providing food sources for native tribes. It also benefits many of the predatory animals who will then prey upon the gemsbok rather than so detrimentally on livestock. Driving wild herd animals takes a knowledge of how the animals react. Driven too hard, these gemsbok would crash into the low wire fence which guides them toward the trap. But careful herding at the correct pace keeps them going just right. Even then, the animals will sometimes try to make a break, but alertness on the part of the driver keeps the situation under control. Without being unduly hazed or excited by a direct human contact, the gemsbok are very neatly driven into the mouth of the plastic-walled trap. In comparison to the old capture method using the stationary netting, this type of capture is infinitely better and safer for men and animals. To these animals, the curtain walls are solid. Not only does the trap contain them in the simplest way, but the animals settle down very quickly. This trap is one more tool man is using to safely capture, study, and conserve wild animals. Throughout the world, scientists are capturing wild animals, gathering data about them, marking and releasing them. From these animals, we're learning more about our world. The lessons learned may help us conserve not only wildlife, but man himself. Many of the more learned conservationists are deeply concerned as even remote areas of the globe are becoming threatened. We must not let the legitimate fears of such knowledgeable men become reality. Our very lives, yours, mine, all of mankind's, may be at stake. We must continue to study animal life closely everywhere, for if we don't, we will be the ones who suffer. Why conservation? Because we ourselves may become extinct if we destroy our priceless heritage, the wild kingdom.
Mutual of Omaha has presented Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
Like what you saw? Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for more exclusive content. And visit our website at wildkingdom.com.